When Deathworlds answer, the silence of space was broken by a signal that would change everything. Deep in the Colorado mountains, Earth's primary deep space monitoring facility hummed with quiet activity. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat at her workstation, reviewing routine data from distant star systems when the alert chimed. At first, she thought it was another equipment malfunction. The red warning light had been flickering all week due to solar interference. But this time was different. The signal pattern displayed on her screen made her heart race. After 15 years of searching for signs of intelligent life beyond Earth, she was looking at something that could only be artificial. The mathematical sequences were too complex, too purposeful to be natural phenomena. Elena's hands trembled as she reached for the emergency communication device. Within minutes, her call had reached Admiral Marcus Stone at Pacific Command. The 60-year-old veteran had seen 3 wars and countless crises, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. His weathered face remained calm as he listened to Elena's breathless explanation, though his gray eyes reflected the magnitude of what she was telling him. "How certain are you, Doctor?" Stone asked, his voice steady despite the circumstances. 100%, Admiral. This is first contact." Across the globe, world leaders were awakened with the news. The Global Council convened an emergency session within hours. Representatives from every nation gathered via holographic link, their faces tense with anticipation and fear. The signal played repeatedly in the council chambers, its alien melody both beautiful and haunting. Elena worked tirelessly with her team of linguists and mathematicians. The message was complex, layered with multiple forms of communication. First came the universal language of mathematics, establishing basic concepts of number and time. Then came something more challenging, an alien language unlike anything in Earth's databases. The breakthrough came after 18 hours of continuous work. Elena's colleague, Dr. James Park, noticed recurring patterns in the acoustic structure of the alien speech. The sounds rose and fell like ocean waves, suggesting the speakers might live in an aquatic environment. Using this insight, the team began mapping emotional context to the musical tones. When the translation finally appeared on the main screen, the room fell silent. The message was a desperate plea for help from a species calling themselves the Zephyrians. Their homeworld, Zephyra Prime, was under threat from an aggressive empire known as the Void Syndicate. The aquatic civilization had no military tradition, no weapons of war. They were peaceful explorers and scientists who had never faced such brutality. Admiral Stone studied the star charts projected in the war room. Zephyra Prime was located in the Kepler 442 system, nearly 47 light-years from Earth. It would take the fastest human ships 6 months to reach the system, assuming their new hyperspace drives performed as expected. The technology was still experimental, tested only on unmanned probes. "The risks are enormous," cautioned General Patricia Hayes, Stone's second-in-command. "We're talking about committing our entire deep space fleet to help aliens we've never met, against an enemy we know nothing about." Stone nodded thoughtfully. The general was right to be cautious. Humanity had only developed interstellar travel 25 years ago. Their colonies on nearby systems were still small and vulnerable. Earth's military was designed for planetary defense, not galactic warfare. But as Stone listened to the Zephyrian message again, he thought about the fear in the alien voice. The speaker, who identified himself as Ambassador Kethva, described cities being evacuated, children crying in terror, and elders preparing for death. It reminded Stone of his own childhood during the European War, when his family had huddled in bomb shelters while enemy aircraft roared overhead. The Global Council debate lasted 3 days. Some representatives argued for caution, suggesting humanity should focus on its own defense rather than interfering in alien conflicts. Others worried about provoking the Void Syndicate, potentially bringing their aggression to Earth. But a growing faction, led by President Sarah Morrison of the United States and Chancellor Klaus Weber of the European Federation, argued for intervention. Dr. Elena Vasquez addressed the council on the final day of debate. She had decoded additional messages from the Zephyrians, learning more about their culture and the threat they faced. The Void Syndicate was a nomadic empire that consumed entire star systems, stripping planets of resources before moving on to the next target. They had already destroyed 3 Zephyrian colony worlds. Stone nodded thoughtfully. The general was right to be cautious. Humanity had only developed interstellar travel 25 years ago. Their colonies on nearby systems were still small and vulnerable. Earth's military was designed for planetary defense, not galactic warfare. But as Stone listened to the Zephyrian message again, he thought about the fear in the alien voice. The speaker, who identified himself as Ambassador Kethva, described cities being evacuated, children crying in terror, and elders preparing for death. It reminded Stone of his own childhood during the European War, when his family had huddled in bomb shelters while enemy aircraft roared overhead. The Global Council debate lasted 3 days. Some representatives argued for caution, suggesting humanity should focus on its own defense rather than interfering in alien conflicts. Others worried about provoking the Void Syndicate, potentially bringing their aggression to Earth. But a growing faction, led by President Sarah Morrison of the United States and Chancellor Klaus Weber of the European Federation, argued for intervention. Dr. Elena Vasquez addressed the council on the final day of debate. She had decoded additional messages from the Zephyrians, learning more about their culture and the threat they faced. The Void Syndicate was a nomadic empire that consumed entire star systems, stripping planets of resources before moving on to the next target. They had already destroyed 3 Zephyrian colony worlds. The Zephyrians represent everything we hope to become as a species, Elena told the council. They've achieved global peace, eliminated poverty, and dedicated themselves to scientific advancement and artistic expression. They're calling us for help because they believe in the goodness of other intelligent species. How can we turn our backs on that faith? Admiral Stone's military assessment was sobering but honest. Earth's fleet consisted of 12 capital ships, 43 destroyers, and 96 fighter craft. The crews were well-trained but inexperienced in actual combat. Most of their battles had been against pirates and raiders in the outer colonies, nothing like a full-scale interstellar war. Yet Stone believed humanity had advantages the Zephyrians lacked. Earth's violent history had taught humans to be adaptable, resourceful, and determined. While the Zephyrians had never needed to develop military technology, humans had been perfecting the art of warfare for millennia. Their ships might be fewer in number, but they were built for survival in the harsh environment of space. The vote was closer than expected. 51 nations in favor of intervention, 47 opposed, with 12 abstentions. President Morrison announced the decision to a waiting world. Earth would answer the Zephyrian call for help. Preparation began immediately. The fleet would be led by the EA's Resilience, humanity's most advanced battleship. Its captain, Sarah Chen, was a former test pilot who had helped develop the hyperspace drive system. At 38, she was young for such responsibility, but her combination of technical expertise and tactical thinking made her the ideal choice for this unprecedented mission. Chen stood on the bridge of the Resilience, watching as supplies and personnel were loaded aboard. The ship was massive by human standards, nearly 800 meters long and armed with the latest in human technology. Rail guns, plasma cannons, and defensive shields powered by fusion reactors. It was built to fight, but Chen hoped diplomacy might still prevent bloodshed. The crew of the Resilience reflected the diversity of Earth itself. Engineers from Japan worked alongside gunners from Brazil. Navigation specialists from Canada collaborated with medical officers from South Africa. They all understood the magnitude of their mission and the risks involved. Dr. Elena Vasquez joined the expedition as the Chief Communication Officer. Her job would be to facilitate contact with the Zephyrians and hopefully establish dialogue with the Void Syndicate. She had studied every available piece of information about both species, but knew that theoretical knowledge would be very different from actual contact. On the day of departure, crowds gathered at spaceports around the world. The launch was broadcast globally, with billions watching as humanity took its first steps onto the galactic stage. Admiral Stone delivered a brief speech from the Resilience's bridge, his words carried across space to Earth below. Today, we represent not just our own nations or our own planet, but the values that make us human. We go to the aid of strangers because it's the right thing to do. We face the unknown because courage is what defines us. Whatever challenges await in the darkness between stars, we will meet them together. The fleet began its departure sequence. One by one, the ships activated their hyperspace drives, reality bending around them as they prepared to cross the vast distances between stars. Captain Chen took her position at the center of the bridge, her hand steady on the command console. "All ships report ready, Captain," announced Commander Torres, her first officer. Chen nodded, taking a deep breath. In a few moments, they would disappear from Earth's sensors, beginning a journey that would take them farther from home than any human had ever traveled. The fate of an entire alien civilization rested in their hands. Fleet Command, this is Captain Chen. Beginning hyperspace jump in 10 seconds. Earth, we carry your hopes with us. The stars stretched into lines of light as the ships entered hyperspace. Behind them, Earth continued its ancient rotation, now empty of its protectors. Ahead lay the unknown, where humanity would either prove itself worthy of the stars or face destruction in the void. 6 months would pass before Earth heard from them again. Deathworlders united. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system to find themselves in the middle of a war zone. Captain Sarah Chen gripped her command chair as explosions lit up the darkness ahead. The Zephyrian homeworld was under siege, its beautiful blue-green surface partially obscured by the smoke of burning orbital stations. "Contact Admiral Stone immediately," Chen ordered, "and get me a tactical assessment of the situation." The main viewer showed a scene of devastation that made the bridge crew fall silent. Massive black ships, angular and menacing, surrounded Zephyra Prime like predators circling wounded prey. These were the vessels of the Void Syndicate, and they were methodically destroying everything in orbit around the planet. Commander Torres studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. "Captain, I'm counting over 200 enemy vessels. They'd completely overwhelmed the Zephyrian defense grid." Chen had expected to arrive at a planet preparing for invasion, not one already under attack. The Void Syndicate had moved faster than anyone anticipated. Every minute of delay meant more Zephyrian lives lost. "Signal the fleet," Chen commanded. "Battle stations. We're going in." Dr. Elena Vasquez monitored the communication channels, trying to make contact with the Zephyrians below. After several attempts, she managed to reach Ambassador Kethva, the diplomat who had sent the original distress call. The alien's musical voice was strained with exhaustion and fear. "Humans? You actually came." Kethva could barely believe what he was hearing. "We had given up hope. The Void Syndicate arrived 3 days ago. Our cities are under bombardment." Elena's heart ached at the desperation in the ambassador's voice. "We're here now. Can you provide us with information about enemy positions and defensive capabilities?" "Defensive capabilities?" Kethva's translator seemed confused by the term. "We have none. We are a peaceful people. We never imagined we would need weapons." This confirmed what Elena had suspected from her analysis of Zephyrian culture. They were true pacifists, as alien to the concept of warfare as humans were familiar with it. The Void Syndicate had chosen their target well, or so they thought. Captain Chen studied the tactical display, her military training taking over. The enemy ships were arranged in a standard siege formation, designed to prevent any escape from the planet, while systematically destroying infrastructure. It was efficient but predictable, the strategy of an empire that had never faced serious resistance. "They're not expecting a fight," Chen muttered to herself. "Torres, signal all ships. We're going to hit them fast and hard before they can reorganize." The human fleet was outnumbered 20 to 1, but Chen had advantages the Void Syndicate couldn't anticipate. Human ships were built for maneuverability and survivability, designed by a species that had learned warfare in the harsh environment of space. More importantly, human tactics were unpredictable, developed through centuries of conflict against equally intelligent opponents. The attack began with a coordinated strike against the enemy's outer perimeter. Human fighters, small and fast, darted between the massive Void Syndicate vessels like angry wasps. Their pilots, trained in three-dimensional combat, used the debris field from destroyed Zephyrian stations as cover while launching precision strikes against enemy weapon systems. General Vextar, commander of the Void Syndicate invasion force, watched the attack with growing confusion from his flagship bridge. His species, the Korthek, had conquered dozens of systems without facing organized resistance. Most civilizations surrendered rather than face destruction. Those few that fought did so conventionally, ship against ship in predictable formations. But these new arrivals fought like nothing he had encountered. Their ships moved in seemingly random patterns that somehow coordinated into devastating attacks. They ignored his heavy cruisers, instead targeting communication arrays and sensor networks. Within minutes, his carefully organized siege formation was in chaos. "Who are these attackers?" Vextar demanded of his intelligence officer. "Unknown, General. Their ship designs are unlike anything in our databases. They appear to have come from the galactic rim." Vextar studied the tactical display, watching as another of his destroyer squadrons was picked apart by the mysterious enemy fighters. The attacking ships were smaller than his vessels, but moved with incredible precision. Their weapons seemed primitive, kinetic projectiles, and plasma bursts, but were used with deadly effectiveness. Aboard the Resilience, Captain Chen coordinated the battle with calm efficiency. Her years as a test pilot had taught her to think in three dimensions and react quickly to changing situations. She watched the enemy formation collapse and knew it was time for the next phase of the attack. "All capital ships begin bombardment of enemy heavy cruisers. Concentrate fire on their engines and weapon systems. I want them disabled, not destroyed." Commander Torres looked surprised. "Captain, wouldn't it be more effective to target their life support systems?" Chen shook her head. "We're not here to commit genocide, Torres. Our mission is to protect the Zephyrians, not annihilate their enemies." This distinction would prove crucial in the battle to come. The Void Syndicate had expected either easy victory or total defeat. They had not anticipated an enemy that fought with restraint, seeking to disable rather than destroy. It was a concept foreign to their military doctrine, which emphasized overwhelming force and complete destruction of opposition. As the battle continued, the Zephyrians watched in amazement from their planet below. Ambassador Kethva and his colleagues observed the human fleet's tactics with growing wonder. These beings from the Deathworld called Earth fought with a combination of aggression and precision that seemed impossible to their peaceful minds. "They move like the great sea predators of our ancient oceans," Kethva observed, "but they strike with the intelligence of our greatest strategists." Dr. Elena Vasquez continued to monitor communications between the human ships and was struck by the coordination she heard. Human crews from different nations worked together seamlessly, their training and shared purpose overcoming any cultural differences. It was a unity born from their common origin on a world that had taught them survival required cooperation. The turning point came when Captain Chen ordered a risky maneuver. The Resilience would make a direct assault on the Void Syndicate flagship, hoping to capture or eliminate their command structure. It was dangerous. The enemy ship was 3 times larger than the human vessel, but Chen believed surprise and determination could overcome the size disadvantage. The Resilience accelerated toward the enemy flagship, its shields absorbing punishment from defensive weapons. Chen's crew worked with mechanical precision, each member knowing their role in the desperate gambit. The ship shuddered under enemy fire, but its advanced armor held. At the last moment, Chen ordered the ship to roll 90 degrees and fire its main guns directly into the flagship's bridge section. The attack was perfectly timed and executed, disabling the enemy's command center without destroying the entire vessel. General Vextar found himself thrown against his command chair as the bridge erupted in sparks and smoke. Half his command crew was unconscious, and his ship's main systems were offline. For the first time in his military career, he faced the possibility of defeat. The communication system crackled to life, carrying a transmission from the human fleet. Captain Chen's voice was calm but firm as she addressed the Void Syndicate commander. General Vextar, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Fleet. Your invasion force has been neutralized. Withdraw from this system immediately, and no further harm will come to your ships or crews. Vextar stared at the communication panel, struggling to understand what he was hearing. The humans had won a decisive victory, but were offering terms rather than demanding surrender. It went against everything he knew about warfare and conquest. "Why do you not finish us?" he asked, his translator struggling with the concept. "You have won. We are defeated." Chen's response would be remembered by both species for generations to come. "Because victory without honor is meaningless. We came here to protect the Zephyrians, not to become conquerors ourselves. Take your ships and leave. Don't return." The psychological impact of Chen's words rippled through the Void Syndicate fleet. They had never encountered an enemy that showed mercy in victory. It challenged their fundamental understanding of power and conflict. Some commanders saw weakness, but others began to question the philosophy that had driven their empire's expansion. After an hour of heated debate among the Void Syndicate leadership, General Vextar gave the order to withdraw. The surviving ships of his fleet regrouped at the system's edge before jumping to hyperspace, leaving behind their disabled vessels and thousands of questions about the species that had defeated them. As the enemy fleet disappeared, celebration erupted across Sephira Prime. The aquatic cities that had been preparing for destruction instead began planning festivals of gratitude. Ambassador Kethva requested permission to come aboard the Resilience, eager to meet the beings who had saved his world. The first meeting between humans and Zephyrians took place in the Resilience's main conference room. Ambassador Kethva was tall and graceful, with flowing appendages that moved like seaweed in ocean currents. His large, dark eyes reflected intelligence and curiosity as he studied the humans before him. "We owe you a debt that can never be repaid," Kethva said, his musical voice conveying deep emotion. "But we must ask, why did you risk everything for strangers you had never met?" Captain Chen considered the question carefully before responding. "Because that's what makes us human. We've learned through our history that strength means nothing without compassion. We came because you asked for help, and because helping others is what we believe is right." Dr. Elena Vasquez served as translator and cultural liaison, helping both species understand each other's perspectives. She explained human history to the Zephyrians, the wars, the struggles, the gradual progress toward global cooperation. In return, she learned about Zephyrian culture, their artistic achievements, and their scientific discoveries. The cultural exchange that followed would benefit both civilizations immeasurably. The Zephyrians shared their advanced medical technology and their understanding of sustainable energy systems. The humans offered their expertise in defensive systems and their knowledge of interstellar navigation. But perhaps more importantly, the two species learned from each other's philosophies. The Zephyrians showed humans the beauty of true peace, while humans taught the Zephyrians that sometimes strength must be used to protect the innocent. As the human fleet prepared to depart, Ambassador Kethva made a formal request to the Earth government. The Zephyrians wanted to establish a permanent alliance, sharing knowledge and resources for mutual benefit. They also wanted to help humanity establish diplomatic contact with other peaceful species in the galaxy. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Resilience, watching Sephira Prime grow smaller in the distance. The mission had been successful beyond all expectations. Not only had they saved an entire civilization, but they had established humanity's reputation as a species that could be trusted. The journey home would take another 6 months, but Chen knew they were returning as heroes. More importantly, they were returning as ambassadors for a new age of galactic cooperation. Humanity had proven that Deathworlders could be protectors as well as warriors. The signal that reached Earth 6 months later carried news that would reshape human civilization. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but it was not empty of friends. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians of the peace.